Recent changes in Florida's insurance laws now make it harder to hold your insurance company accountable if they don't do the right thing. So it's more important now than ever to understand how your insurance policy works and what types of coverages you can have. PIP, collision, comprehensive, property damage, bodily injury. These are just some of the coverages that you can purchase on a car insurance policy in Florida. What do they all mean? Hi, I'm Andrew Irvin. I'm a personal injury attorney in Winter Park, Florida, and I help people get back what they've lost after a car accident. So let's talk about insurance coverages. PIP stands for Personal Injury Protection. It's mandatory coverage in Florida, which means it has to be on every insurance policy. It is no-fault coverage and applies to anybody who's injured in a crash, regardless of who's at fault. So whether you caused an accident or somebody else crashed into you, this benefit is there for you. PIP only covers two things: medical expenses and lost wages. For medical expenses, it can cover your doctor's visits, prescriptions, and mileage reimbursement to and from your appointments. PIP pays 80% of your medical bills up to $10,000 and 60% of your lost wages. However, that $10,000 limit applies to both your medical bills and your lost wages. So once $10,000 has been paid, you don't have this coverage anymore. Property damage is the only other coverage required under Florida law. This is liability coverage, so it only applies if you're at fault or liable in a crash and cause property damage to somebody else. For example, you damaged another car, a building, or a mailbox. Property damage does not cover damage to your car. For that, you need comprehensive or collision coverage. Collision coverage applies if your car was damaged in a collision, whether it was with another car, a pole, or a wall. If your car is damaged from something other than a collision, like a fallen tree, theft, or vandalism, then you will need comprehensive coverage. Again, property damage only covers damage you caused to somebody else's car, where comp and collision will cover your car regardless of who is at fault. Now, before I talk about the other types of coverage, let's talk about the phrase full coverage. It's a phrase I hear often, but I don't think it means what most people think it means. First off, there is no one single definition of full coverage. Most people that think they have full coverage just have the mandatory minimum requirements under Florida law, and that's property damage coverage and PIP. And just because you met Florida's minimal requirements doesn't mean you have full coverage. For example, if you caused an accident and injured somebody, your insurance company would not have to pay for any of those damages if you don't have bodily injury coverage. This means you would be personally responsible for somebody's medical bills and injuries. And in my opinion, if you only have PIP and property damage coverage, you do not have full coverage. No one expects to injure somebody else in a crash, but it can happen, and that's where bodily injury coverage comes in. If you injure someone and they have medical bills, you could be legally responsible to reimburse them for these bills. And if they're permanently injured, you could be responsible to pay for what they've lost in terms of health. Bodily injury coverage will pay for damages that you become responsible for after a car accident up to the limits of your policy. Uninsured motorist, or UM, is similar to bodily injury coverage, except it covers you. If you are injured and the person that hit you either has no bodily injury coverage or not enough, that's where your UM can step in. It's as if you purchased bodily injury coverage for the person that hit you. Remember, in Florida, many people are uninsured or underinsured in terms of injury coverage because it's not required by Florida law. Trying to get back what you're owed from somebody with no bodily injury coverage can be very difficult because even if the court says you are owed this money, it can be very hard to collect. So coverage is very important to have on your policy. It should protect you, your family members that reside with you, as well as passengers that are riding in your vehicle. So what can happen if you don't have one of these coverages or enough? People often try to save money by removing some of these coverages, but you need to balance your budget with the risk that you can take on personally. If you suffer a permanent injury and can't work for 6 months, can you cover your financial obligations without uninsured motorist coverage? Or if a lawsuit is filed against you for personal injuries you caused in a crash, can you cover the legal fees to defend yourself and the damages that you could become personally responsible for without bodily injury coverage. And if you're at fault in a crash but don't have collision coverage, can you afford to pay out of pocket to repair or replace your vehicle? As with any insurance purchase, you need to do a risk analysis and make sure you're properly protecting yourself and your family. Talk with a reputable insurance agent and be informed when you're selecting insurance. Understanding how each coverage works and when they apply is a good first step. I'm Andrew Irvin, managing partner at Irvin & Irvin. And for more free tips on how to protect yourself both before and after a car accident, please like, follow, and subscribe.